shadows of war the desert burned beneath a twin sun. Heat waves shimmered across the cracked ground, and the air carried the smell of iron and ash. Kalen of the Arathani clan pressed his clawed hand against a broken stone pillar and looked out at the horizon. Once this land had been green. His grandmother told stories of rivers that glowed silver under the night, of trees so tall their roots drank the sky. Now nothing lived here but dust and ghosts. The war had come again. High above, in the blood red, clouds ships drifted like vultures. They bore the markings of the core Dominion blackened steel hulls, hooked fins, engines that screamed with menace. Wherever they came, they stripped worlds bare, taking slaves and burning what could not be carried. Kalen spat on the ground. His people had resisted for centuries, but they were losing. Every season, another city fell. Another clan was erased. But today was different. He wasn't alone anymore. Beside him, a figure adjusted a cracked helmet, its visor reflecting the dying sun. She was short compared to him, fragile-looking, soft-skinned. Her armor was old, patched from scraps of alien alloys and human ingenuity. Her rifle leaned casually against her shoulder, as if the Dominion ships above were no more threatening than birds. Her name was Captain Mara Ellis, human dot to the Dominion. Humanity was nothing more than a rumor. A whisper carried across the void. The galaxy said humans were a dead species extinguished in the early wars, too fragile to survive among predators. Some cultures even told myths of humans as tricksters, ghosts who walked between fire and shadow. Kalen had laughed when he first heard of her kind. A fragile mammal? No scales? No claws? No hardened carapace? He thought the stories were lies. Until she had walked into his shattered village, dragging behind her a broken shuttle engine that no Arathani could lift. Until he saw her repair plasma conduits with her bare hands, while Dominion artillery rained down around them. Until she shot down a Dominion gunship with a weapon she had built from scrap and fury. Now he believed she was human. And she was dangerous. Kalen turned his eyes to her. "They will come soon," he said, his deep voice heavy with dread. "They always come," Mara replied. Her voice was calm, but there was steel in it. "The difference is, this time, we hit back." Kalen's chest tightened. The Arathani had never spoken of hitting back. Survival meant hiding. It meant bending the knee, offering tribute, praying to be overlooked. But Mara Ellis, she carried war in her blood. The sky darkened. Engines roared overhead. 3 Dominion dropships descended, their wings glowing with fire. Kalen tensed his, claws digging into stone. "They know we are here." "Good," Mara said. She dropped her visor down and checked the rifle's chamber. "Let's give them something to remember." The dropships landed with a thunderous quake, throwing sand into the air. Dominion soldiers poured out tall, armored beasts with 4 arms and mandibles, sharp as knives. Their weapons glowed with crackling plasma. Kalen's instinct screamed for him to run. His people always ran. But Mara was already moving, sliding into cover, signaling him with 2 fingers. The battle began. Plasma bolts scorched the sand where she had stood. Mara leaned out, fired twice, and 1 Dominion soldier collapsed with a smoking hole in its throat. Kalen's heart pounded. She moved like lightning, like fire given flesh. "Move, Kalen," she shouted. "Left flank." He obeyed without thinking. He lunged from cover, claws slashing across a soldier's throat. Blood sprayed the sand. Another soldier roared, swinging its weapon, but Mara was faster. Her rifle barked, and it fell. The Dominion had numbers. The humans had raged out. Minutes felt like hours. The sand burned under their feet, the air alive with fire. Kalen fought until his arms ached, until the smell of blood filled his lungs. And still Mara stood, unbroken, her voice cutting through the chaos. Finally, the battlefield fell silent. Dominion corpses lay broken around them. Smoke curled into the sky. Kalen stared at her in awe. His chest rose and fell, his claws trembling. "You?" he whispered. "What are you?" Mara lifted her visor. Her face was streaked with soot, her eyes fierce and alive. "Human," she said simply. And in that word, Kalen felt the world shift. But then the ground shook. The air grew heavier. The sky lit up with fire. A shadow eclipsed the suns larger than any ship Kalen had ever seen. A Dominion war cruiser descended, blotting out the horizon. Mara's eyes narrowed. "Damn," she muttered. "They brought a capital ship." Kellen's blood froze. Against such power, no one could survive. Not even her. "What do we do?" he asked. Mara slung her rifle across her back. Her lips curved into a dangerous smile. "We make them remember why the galaxy should fear humans." The war cruiser's shadow. The war cruiser loomed above them, blotting out the sky like a nightmare carved from steel. Its hull stretched for kilometers, bristling with gun batteries that could reduce entire cities to ash. The Dominion's banners burned crimson across its side, daring any who looked upon it to resist. Kellen's throat tightened. "That ship, it carries enough firepower to erase this continent." "Exactly," Mara said, her eyes narrowing as she studied the descending. "Behemoth, which means they won't waste it on just us. They want to send a message." The Dominion always sent messages. Entire worlds burned to remind others of their dominance. Kalen felt his chest ache with despair. His people were doomed. He should have fled when he had the chance. Yet his eyes fell on Mara, standing tall against the storm, and for the first time in his life, he wondered if doom could be rewritten. "Come on," she said. "We're not staying here." She darted toward the ruins of an old observatory, its stone walls shattered by previous bombardments. Kalen followed, his claws scraping over broken ground. Inside, the air was cooler, shadows pooling in cracked archways. Dust motes hung heavy, disturbed only by their breaths. Mara knelt, pulling a small device from her belt, an old datapad, its casing scorched and dented. Kalen frowned. "What can that thing do against a war cruiser?" Mara smirked. "That depends. How much do you trust humans to break the unbreakable?" Before he could answer, the datapad flickered to life. A star map loomed in the air, lines of blue light sketching Dominion patrol routes, supply lines, and hidden weaknesses. Kellen's eyes widened. "You have their war maps?" "Stole them," Mara said casually. "Years ago. Cost me a ship. 3 ribs and a very ugly scar." Kalen could only stare. This fragile-looking creature had stolen from the Dominion itself? She tapped the map, zooming in on the massive war cruiser. Every ship, no matter how big, has weak points. Maintenance. Tunnels, power conduits, cooling vents. Dominion engineering is impressive, but they don't think like us. Kellen's crest flared in disbelief. "You mean to fight that?" "Not fight," Mara corrected. Her lips curled into a grin that sent a chill down his spine. "Break." Kellen's heart hammered. The Erithani didn't think of breaking the Dominion. No one did. The idea was madness. Yet her words sparked something inside him, a dangerous, treacherous hope. Before he could reply, a low rumble shook the ground. Dominion transports were landing in the distance. Hundreds of soldiers poured out, moving toward the ruins. There, sweeping for survivors. Kalen growled. "Good," Mara said, slinging her rifle. "We'll give them something to find." Kalen blinked. "You mean to fight them here?" "Not fight," she said again. "Distract." With practiced precision, Mara planted a small device against the wall, a jury-rigged explosive. She moved quickly, setting more along the ruined arches. Kalen watched in awe. Each device looked like junk. Broken power cells, scrap wires, shards of metal. But in her hands, they became weapons. "You humans," he whispered. "You make war out of trash." Mara chuckled. "We make survival out of trash. War just comes with it." The first wave of Dominion soldiers entered the ruins. Their heavy footsteps echoed, their voices clicking in their guttural tongue. Mara gave Kalen a sharp look. "On my mark," she said. The soldiers spread out. Their scanners hummed, searching for heat signatures. One of them stopped, mandibles flaring as it caught sight of Kalen's crest in the shadows. It raised its weapon. "Mark!" Mara shouted. The ruins erupted. The explosives tore through stone and steel, collapsing archways onto the soldiers. Fire roared. Smoke choked the air. Screams filled the chamber. Kalen lunged, his claws tearing through stunned enemies. Mara moved beside him, a blur of deadly precision. Together, they turned the ruins into a slaughterhouse. But the Dominion kept coming. For every soldier that fell, 2 more pressed forward. Plasma bolts scorched the walls, cutting off their escape. Kalen panted, his body aching. "We cannot hold. We're not supposed to," Mara replied. She fired one last shot, dropping a Dominion officer, then slapped a final device onto the ground. Its timer blinked red. Kellen's eyes widened. "That will run!" They sprinted out the back of the ruins, just as the device detonated. The explosion ripped through the observatory, tearing it apart in a violent storm of fire and shrapnel. The shockwave hurled them into the sand. Kalen groaned, lifting his head. Behind them, the ruins were gone, obliterated. Dominion soldiers lay scattered in twisted heaps. Mara pushed herself up, coughing but smiling. "That'll slow them down." Kalen stared at her in disbelief. His people had lived in terror for centuries. Yet this human treated the Dominion like prey to be toyed with. Then his gaze shifted to the sky. The war cruiser was still there, unmoved, its massive guns beginning to glow. And suddenly, the horizon burned. A beam of fire lanced down from the war cruiser, striking a city miles away. In seconds, towers crumbled, flames spread, and tens of thousands of lives vanished in a single blinding flash. Kalen fell too. His knees, his heart breaking. His people, his world, erased like dust. Mara stood frozen, her fists clenched. Her face was pale, her jaw tight. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, softly, with a voice like steel drawn in the dark, she whispered, "They want war?" Her eyes turned toward the war cruiser. "Then we'll give them one." Fire in the ashes. The city burned until the horizon was nothing but smoke and flame. The war cruiser's cannon fire rolled across the desert like thunder, shaking the ground, shattering Kalen's heart. He sank to his knees in the sand, claws trembling. "My people gone." Mara stood beside him, visor down, fists clenched. She didn't look at him. Her gaze never left the war cruiser blotting out the sky. "I'm sorry," she whispered. The words sounded raw, torn from somewhere deep. "I've seen this before. Different world, same cruelty." Kalen turned on her, voice ragged. "Then why fight? Why resist? You cannot stop that." He pointed a claw toward the war cruiser, its engines glowing like a sun. "Nothing can." Mara's eyes met his, and for a heartbeat, Kalen flinched not from anger, but from the burning fire in her gaze. "Wrong," she said. "Everything breaks. Dominion ships, Dominion armies, even Dominion pride. All it takes is the right strike in the right place, and the will not to give up." Her words felt impossible. Yet something in them stirred the ache in Kellen's chest, the grief that weighed like stone. Was this what humans did? Take despair and twist it into defiance? Before he could speak, a voice crackled through the comms unit. strapped to Mara's wrist. It was faint, distorted, but filled with urgency. "Captain Ellis? If you're alive, coordinates." "Repeat coordinates." Cullen's crest rose in surprise. "There are more of you?" Mara exhaled slowly, her shoulders relaxing a fraction. "Not many. A few cells, scattered. Survivors. Fighters. We don't have fleets or armies. Just small crews, running sabotage, saving who we can. But if they're close..." She looked at him, eyes sharp. "Then maybe we're not alone anymore." They moved under cover of darkness. The twin suns had dipped below the horizon, leaving the desert painted in silver light from the shattered moon. Mara led the way, silent and precise, every step deliberate. Kalen followed, his body sore, his spirit raw. After hours of trudging through dunes, they reached the coordinates. Hidden beneath jagged cliffs lay a half-buried starship. Its hull was scarred, patched with foreign alloys, but it still breathed life, a faint hum of power, soft blue lights glowing through sand-caked vents. A human starship. Kalen froze. "By the void." Mara's hand brushed against the hull, her expression softening. "The Wayfarer. She's old, stubborn, and ugly, but she's ours." A hatch hissed open. Figures emerged, 3 of them. Kellen's instincts bristled, but Mara raised a hand. "Friends." The first figure stepped. Forward, a broad-shouldered man with a beard streaked white, his left arm replaced with a mechanical prosthetic. He grinned when he saw Mara. "Captain Ellis, thought the Dominion finally roasted you." "Not yet," Mara said dryly. "Hale, meet Kalen. Kalen, this is Chief Hale Engineer, Mechanic, Miracle Worker." Hale gave the Erithani a wary look, then nodded. "If Mara trusts you, that's enough." Behind him, a younger woman emerged lithe, with sharp eyes that scanned the dunes nervously. "Scanners picked up Dominion patrols. We don't have long." "Lieutenant Vega," Mara introduced. "Best pilot I've ever flown with." The last figure lumbered out, a towering alien, with tusks and skin like stone. Kellen's crest flared. In surprise, he recognized the species of brother. Enslaved by the Dominion, their kind were rarely free. The brother rumbled. "Name's Dorn. Dominion killed my clutch. Mara gave me a reason to keep living." Kalen looked between them, stunned. Humans, aliens, all fighting side by side? He had never seen such a thing. His people resisted alone, each clan falling one by one. But here was unity. Hale clapped Mara on the shoulder. "What's the plan, Captain?" "You didn't drag. You's out here just to swap stories." Mara's eyes hardened. She looked up at the war cruiser, still looming above the clouds. "We hit it." Silence fell. Even the desert wind seemed to hold its breath. Vega blinked. "The war cruiser? That's suicide." "Maybe," Mara said. "But if we run, they'll keep burning worlds until there's nothing left. If we strike, even once, we show the galaxy the Dominion isn't invincible. That humans aren't dead." Her words lit a spark in Hale's eyes, a dangerous gleam in Dorn's tusked grin. Even Vega's lips twitched into a reluctant smile. Kalen felt his chest tighten. Could it be true? Could one ship, one ragged crew, strike at a monster like that? Mara turned to him. "Kalen, I need your people's knowledge. You've lived under Dominion rule for centuries. You know their routines, their supply chains, their blind spots." He hesitated. Fear warred with the faint ember of hope flickering in him. To resist was death, but hadn't death already come? His city was gone, his people burned out at last. He nodded. "I will help." Mara's lips curved into a fierce smile. "Then let's give the galaxy something to shudder about." The Wayfarer lifted from the desert, engines growling low. Sand whipped across the dunes as the patched-together vessel clawed its way into the sky. Inside, the crew strapped in, the ship creaking like an old beast waking from slumber. Kalen stood by a viewport, staring at the looming war cruiser above. His claws dug into the railing. Hale's voice echoed from engineering. Engines at 60%. Shields will hold if no one sneezes on us too hard. Viga's voice cut in from the cockpit. Dominion patrols on intercept. 5 fighters inbound. Let them come, Mara said, sliding into the command chair. Her voice was calm, but her eyes blazed. Time to remind them humanity isn't extinct. The crew braced. The Dominion fighters streaked through the night, engines screaming. Plasma bolts lit the void like fireworks. The Wayfarer roared forward to meet them. The first clash was brutal. Plasma fire seared the ship's shields, making them scream in protest. Viga twisted the controls, pulling maneuvers that defied gravity. Hale cursed in engineering, patching systems as fast as they burned out. Dorn roared, firing turret cannons with savage glee. And Mara? She stood in the center of it all, steady, unshaken, giving orders sharp as a blade. Kalen watched in awe. This wasn't chaos, it was war made into music. Each member of the crew moved with trust, with fire, with a will he had never seen in his own people. One by one, the Dominion fighters fell. Explosions lit the sky. The last fighter tried to flee only. For Mara to lean forward, voice cold, finish it. Dorn's cannons roared. The fighter disintegrated in flame. Silence followed. The Wayfarer drifted, scarred but alive. Kellen's chest heaved. He turned to Mara, unable to stop the words from leaving his throat. You are not legends, he whispered. You are worse. You are real. Mara's gaze never left the war cruiser. Good, she said softly. Let them learn what that means. The Wayfarer angled upward, engines burning. Straight toward the war cruiser's shadow. Into the beast. The Dominion war cruiser hung in the sky like a mountain of steel. Its engines, glowing like molten suns. Its presence bent the horizon, filling Kellen's vision until he could not look away. The Wayfarer shook as it ascended. Its hull groaned, shields flickering from the last fight. Kalen gripped the railing, heart hammering. This is madness, he muttered. No ship this small can harm that. Mara stood tall in the command chair, eyes fixed on the war cruiser. That's what they believe. That's why we'll succeed. Viga's voice came sharp from the cockpit. Patrols inbound 2 squadrons this time. They're sweeping the perimeter. Not our problem, Mara replied. Take us under their belly, Viga. I want the maintenance decks. Kalen frowned. Maintenance decks? Hale's gravelly voice cut through from engineering. Every war cruiser's got him. Venting systems, coolant conduits, fuel exchangers. Ugly places unguarded, because who'd be stupid enough to fly into them? Mara's lips curled. Humans. The Wayfarer dove. A Dominion fighter streaked past, expecting a retreat. Instead, the patched-up vessel knifed through the cruiser's shadow, slipping into the maze of heat vents and jagged spires under its massive hull. Steady, Viga muttered, hands tight on the controls. The ship weaved between pylons glowing. Red-hot, through shafts of fire vented from the cruiser's reactors. One wrong move and they'd be slag. Kellen's claws dug into the railing until metal bent. He had seen many die at Dominion hands, but never like this, diving willingly. Into the jaws of death. Finally, Vega gasped. There, opening in the hull maintenance bay, unshielded. The Wayfarer slipped inside. Darkness swallowed them. The bay was cavernous, filled with towering machinery and scaffolds that stretched like ribs of some vast beast. Only a handful of workers and drones moved about, unaware of the intruder. Mara's voice was calm. Landing struts, minimal power. Hale, prep charges. Dorn, weapons on standby. Kellen's pulse thundered. You mean to sabotage from inside? That's the idea, Mara said, snapping her rifle into place. Break the giant from its heart. The hatch hissed open. The crew moved like shadows, weapons raised. Kalen followed, nerves buzzing. The air inside the cruiser was heavy, smelling of oil and ozone. Dominion workers barely had time to react before Dorn's massive fist silenced them. Hawley planted charges with quick precision, muttering to himself in half-broken human slang. Kellen's eyes darted to Mara. She moved with purpose, but something burned in her gaze, something beyond anger. A memory, perhaps. A wound, he whispered. You have done this before. Mara didn't slow. Once, Dominion cruiser over Klin 4. They slaughtered a colony. We gave them back their fire. Cost me half my crew. Her jaw tightened. Never again, Kalen swallowed. She carried ghosts with her, heavier than steel, and yet she still fought, still defied. Was that what made humans different? Charges set, Hawley grunted. Cooling conduits and fuel lines. Pop these, and half the ship's power grid cooks itself. Good, Mara said. Then a klaxon wailed. Red lights blazed across the bay. Doors slammed shut. Dominion soldiers poured in, weapons glowing. Trap. Kalen roared. Vega cursed, raising her pistol. Dorn bellowed, unleashing a torrent of fire. Plasma bolts tore through the air. The maintenance bay exploded into chaos. Kalen slashed down an enemy, adrenaline flooding him. But for every soldier that fell, 3 more entered. The Dominion had known. They had been waiting. Mara fought like fire, rifle barking in short, brutal bursts. But Kalen saw it, the flicker in her eyes, the tension in her jaw. Something was wrong. Then he saw the officer tall, armored in black, with crimson markings carved into his chest plate. His mandibles spread in a cruel grin as he stepped forward. Captain Ellis, he hissed in a guttural voice that still carried perfect human. Words? The ghost returns. Mara froze. Her rifle wavered. You? She whispered. Kelen snarled. You know this creature? Mara's voice cracked with venom. Commander Veer, Dominion's butcher. He was supposed to be dead. Theirs. Grin widened. And yet, here I stand. You should have stayed buried with your species, human. Kellen's chest heaved. Her species? The Dominion had hunted them, exterminated them. And yet here one of their commanders mocked her survival like it was a mistake. Veer raised a claw. Dominion soldiers closed in. Weapons trained. Laid down arms. You are surrounded. Mara's eyes burned. Slowly, she lowered her rifle. The others hesitated, then obeyed. Weapons clattered to the deck. Kellen's heart sank. Had it all been for nothing? Veer stepped closer, savoring the moment. Your kind clings to life like vermin, always knowing its shadows, never understanding you are already extinct. Mara stared at him, unblinking. Then, slowly, a dangerous smile crept across her lips. You still don't get it, do you? She said softly, humans don't go extinct. And in her hand, hidden behind her thigh, a detonator blinked red. Asterisk the price of defiance. The maintenance bay was silent for a meos. Heartbeat. Dominion soldiers circled, weapons ready. Commander Veer loomed, mandibles curled in cruel anticipation. And then Mara pressed the trigger. The charges planted by Haw roared to life. Explosions ripped through conduits overhead, fire surging like rivers of molten light. Machinery groaned, ruptured, and collapsed. The war cruiser shuddered as if struck by a god. Kalen staggered, ears ringing as chaos consumed the bay. Dominion soldiers were hurled by the shockwave, their armor melting. In the searing heat, Hawley tackled Vega behind a fallen girder. shielding her with his cybernetic arm as debris rained down. Mara was already moving. She snatched her rifle from the ground and fired point-blank into the nearest Dominion soldier. "Move! To the ship!" Kalen obeyed, claws slashing through enemies as he cleared a path. Dorn roared, swinging his massive cannon like a club, breaking bones and scattering foes. The Wayfarer's hatch was visible across the bay, but more soldiers poured from the corridors. Cutting them off, Commander Veer rose through the smoke, armor scorched but unbroken, his mandibles spread wide in a grin. Foolish human. You think fire will save you? This ship will not fall so easily. Mara's eyes blazed. She fired, but Veer deflected the bolt with a sweep of his blade. He advanced, towering over her. You should have stayed dead, Ellis. I killed your people once. I'll finish the job. Kalen lunged to intercept, but Veer struck him with terrifying speed, claws raking across his chest. Kalen crashed to the deck, gasping, blood spilling hot and fast. Mara screamed his name, but Veer was already upon her. The battle became a blur. Hale's voice shouted in Kellen's fading ears. "Get up, damn it! Don't you quit now!" Dorn bellowed, mowing down soldiers with his cannon. Vega dragged Kalen to his feet, her eyes wide with fear. Through the haze of smoke, Kalen saw Mara and Veer locked in combat. She fought like lightning, ducking and striking, her rifle switching seamlessly to a blade. But Veer was stronger, faster, armored like stone. Each clash rang with sparks and fury. "You fight with rage," Veer hissed, striking her down onto the deck. But rage burns out. Dominion endures. Mara spat blood, eyes defiant. So do humans. And with a roar, she drove her blade into the exposed joint of his armor. Veer screamed, staggering back as sparks erupted from his chest. "Now!" Mara shouted. Hale hit the final detonator. The war cruiser convulsed. Entire decks blew apart as fuel lines ruptured, coolant conduits igniting into storms of fire. The maintenance bay cracked open, atmosphere venting in a screaming torrent. Dominion soldiers clawed at the floor as they were sucked into the void. Crew sprinted for the Wayfarer. Alarms wailed, fire spread, steel bent and groaned. Kalen stumbled, vision blurring. Vega pulled at him, her voice frantic. "Stay with me." Behind them, Veer staggered through the flames, one arm limp, mandibles dripping blood but alive. His gaze locked on Mara with murderous hate. "This is not over," he roared before collapsing into the inferno. The crew dove into the Wayfarer. Dorn slammed the hatch shut as fire swallowed the bay. "Engines!" Mara barked, dragging Kalen to a crash seat, working on it. Hale shouted, his mechanical arms sparking as he jammed controls into place. "Come on, girl, don't die on me now." The ship groaned, engines sputtered. Then, with a roar, the Wayfarer blasted free of the bay. Behind them, the war cruiser burned. Entire sections collapsed inward, fire venting into the void. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull. For a moment, Kalen believed they had killed the beast. But then the war cruiser's main engines flared back to life. Its massive cannons turned, glowing with terrible energy. "It's still alive," Vega whispered, horror in her voice. "Of course it is," Mara said grimly. "But now it's bleeding, and the whole galaxy just saw it." The Wayfarer tore through space, the Dominion war cruiser's guns thundering behind them. Vega threw the ship into impossible dives, weaving between beams of fire that lit the void. Like suns, Dorn roared in the gunnery seat, firing back with everything they had. Kalen sat strapped in, clutching his wounds. He watched through blurred vision as Mara stood unflinching in the center of it all, her eyes fixed on the impossible fight dot in that moment. Kalen understood. She wasn't just fighting for her people. She was fighting for his. For every enslaved race, for every world the Dominion had burned. But the price was heavy. Hale's voice suddenly broke through the chaos. Panicked. "Captain, engines are overheating. If we don't vent plasma, we're going to blow." "Then vent," Mara snapped. "We can't Dominion fire wreck the regulators. Someone's got to do it manually from outside." Silence fell for half a breath. Everyone knew what that meant. "I'll go," Hollow said at once. His voice was steady, but his eyes were tired. "Old bones like me don't run forever." "No," Mara barked. "That's an order." "With respect, Captain," Hollow said softly. "I stopped following orders when the Dominion took my arm. You gave me something to believe in. Let me pay it back." Kalen tried to rise, claws trembling. "No, you cannot." But Hollow was already moving. He looked back once at his crew, at Mara, his old friend. "Keep flying. Make them remember." And then he was gone, vanishing into the airlock. Moments later, the Wayfarer shuddered as plasma vented. The engines roared back to full power. Hollow never returned. The Wayfarer leapt forward, fire streaking behind her. Dominion beams missed by meters. Vega screamed as she pulled the ship into one final dive. Dorn unleashed the last of their ammunition in a furious barrage dot, and then silence. The stars stretched. Light warped. The Wayfarer jumped to FTL, vanishing into the dark. Inside, the crew sat in stunned quiet. Dorn lowered his cannon. Vega's hands trembled on the controls. Kellen's wounds ached, his chest heavy dot, and Mara sat in her chair, eyes hollow, hands clenched until her knuckles bled. Hollow was gone. But his sacrifice had bought them life. The Dominion war cruiser had survived. But it had bled dot, and across the galaxy, whispers would spread like wildfire. "The humans are back." Asterisk. Whispers of fire the Wayfarer drifted in the quiet dark of a barren asteroid field. Its hull was scarred, patched with emergency plating. Systems hummed weakly, like a wounded animal licking its wounds. Inside, the crew gathered in the mess hall. The air was thick with silence, grief hanging heavy. An empty chair sat at the table Hale's chair. Dorn drank deeply from a dented flask, his tusked face grim. Vega sat with arms folded tight, her eyes red from holding back tears. Kalen stood awkwardly, his claws clicking against the table. He had lost many of his kind to the Dominion. But this loss, this was different. This was Family Mara finally. Entered, her face pale, jaw set. Every eye turned to her. She said nothing at first, only placed Hale's tool belt on the table. The worn leather was scorched, stained with oil. "Chief Halade making sure this ship lived," she said softly. Her voice cracked, but did not falter. He knew what it meant. "We honor him by carrying the fight forward." Dorn slammed his fist against the table. "He deserved better. He deserved freedom," Mara replied. "And he bought it for us, for others, for every world still under the Dominion's boot." Silence followed. Callan's crest trembled. Finally, he spoke, his deep voice low. "My people, we have always bent to survive. Hid in caves, paid tribute, knelt in chains. I believed there was no other way." His gaze shifted to Mara, blazing with something new. "But you showed me different. You showed me that even this impossible can bleed. I will take this story to my clan, to all the Irithani. No more hiding. If humans can defy the Dominion, so can we." Mara's eyes softened, but her tone was firm. "Be careful, Kalen. The Dominion crushes uprisings like insects. If your people rise too soon, they'll slaughter you all." Kalen lifted his chin. "And if we never rise, we are already dead." The news spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, hidden channels buzzed with impossible reports. A Dominion war cruiser crippled by a single outlaw ship. A human ship. On mining colonies, enslaved workers whispered of ghosts of Earth returned. In Dominion barracks, soldiers muttered of humans with fire in their veins. Some laughed, calling it propaganda, but others remembered rumors. Old battle records buried in archives dot in the halls of Dominion Command. Fear sharpened into rage. Commander Veyer lived. Scarred, burned, rebuilt with augments, but alive. His mandibles clicked with fury as he stood before his superiors. The human is alive, he growled, and she is dangerous. A Dominion warlord, vast and armored in crimson, sneered down. At him, one ship does not matter. Veyer's eyes burned. It matters because she teaches others to hope. Crush her now, or the fire spreads. Back aboard the Wayfarer, repairs dragged on. Vega cursed at broken wiring. Dorn welded with heavy hands, and Kalen stumbled through the unfamiliar rhythms of the crew. But one night, Mara sat alone in the observation deck, staring at the stars. Kalen approached quietly. For once, her helmet was off. He saw the lines etched into her face, the exhaustion she carried like a weight. You bleed for people not your own, he said softly. Why? Mara's gaze didn't leave the stars. Because once I was too late. Kalen tilted his head. Too late? Her voice was quiet, raw. Earth, my home. Dominion fleets came. We fought. We bled. But they were stronger. They burned our skies, poisoned our seas. Billions died. I swore I'd never let it happen again. Not while I still breathe. Kalen felt his chest ache. Her people were gone. Extinct, the galaxy believed. And yet here she stood, still fighting. You carry the fire of an entire world, he whispered. Mara finally looked at him, her eyes shimmering with both fury and sorrow. Then help me spread it. The decision came sooner than expected. Scouts brought word. Dominion forces were massing near the Erithani homeworld. A purge fleet. Dozens of ships. Ka Ian single quotes S. Hart sank. His people had no defense, no fleets, no weapons. They would be erased as so many others had been. He turned to Mara, desperation in his voice. You must help us. Mara's jaw clenched. She looked at her wounded ship, her weary crew. They had no fleet, no backup. Just one battered vessel. It's suicide, Vega hissed. We'll be torn apart. Then let's die making them bleed, Norn growled. Kalen dropped to his knees before Mara, pride stripped away. If my people fall, the Dominion grows. Stronger. If they see us resist, others may follow. Please, do not let us burn alone. Mara stared at him. Her hands trembled. Hale's sacrifice still hung in the air. Her crew watched, waiting for her word. Finally, she stood. Her voice was steady, unyielding. We're not letting them burn. Set course for the Erithani homeworld. The crew stiffened, shocked, but none objected. The Wayfarer turned toward destiny. On the Erithani world, millions looked to the skies. They had bent their backs for centuries, their chains heavy, their hope dead. And then, above their world, a small battered ship emerged from the void. It carried no fleet, no armies, no banners. Just fire. And behind it, the Dominion's purge fleet. Arrived like a storm. Asterisk. The fire that would not die. The Wayfarer slipped into orbit above the Erithani homeworld, a lonely speck against the void. Below, the planet was a world of towering stone spires and oceans, carved by winds ancient, proud and weary. Kalen stood on the bridge, his claws trembling. They will see us as fools. One ship cannot save a world. Mara's voice was steady. One ship can light a fire. Dorn grunted, slamming his fist into the console. Let them come. Vega muttered under her breath, but her hands flew across controls, coaxing life from damaged systems. And then the sky darkened. The Dominion, Fleet emerged from hyperspace row upon row of warships, their hulls gleaming crimson, weapons bristling. At the center, massive carriers spread like wings of death. Kellen's people on the surface cowered in silence. They had seen fleets like this before. Always it meant slaughter. But this time, something was different. This time, a voice cut through. The Dominion's transmissions. Mara. She broadcast across every channel, her words clear, sharp, undeniable. This is Captain Mara Vera of Earth. You may not know that name, but you will. My world burned because of the Dominion. My people died, but their fire did not. It burns in me. It burns in this ship, and it will burn in you. All across the Erithani world, workers paused. Soldiers froze. For the first time, they heard a human voice, not in legend, but in truth. The Dominion responded with silence, and then with fury. Commander Veyer's scarred visage appeared on their screen, his mandibles twitching with venom. Human, you should have stayed dead. Mara stared at him with ice in her eyes. You should have finished the job. The channel cut. The Dominion fleet moved. The first salvo came. Like a tidal wave, dozens of plasma lances streaking through the void. The Wayfarer dove, shields flaring, hull screaming. Vega shouted coordinates. Dorn fired raildens. Kalen manned auxiliary cannons with shaking claws. Asterisk explosions lit the dark. The Wayfarer weaved between giants, a single ember defying the storm. Mara's voice never wavered. Hit their cum relays. Make them blind. Dorn's shots cracked through space, tearing antennas from Dominion frigates. Vega overclocked engines until they howled like dying beasts. The Wayfarer burned through enemy lines, a streak of defiance, but the Dominion pressed harder. 2 cruisers pinned them, weapons locked. The ship shuddered as shields collapsed, alarms blaring. They'll gut us, Vega screamed. Not yet, Mara snapped. Kalen now. Kalen slammed his claw down, activating the jury-rigged plasma torpedoes Hale had built before his death. The missiles roared, streaking into the cruisers, impacting with sun's fury. Both cruisers split apart, drifting in flames. The crew roared. For a heartbeat, hope surged out on the ground. The Erithani watched in awe. Their masters, those who ruled them with iron claws, bled fire in the sky. Whispers turned into shouts. Chains fell. Rebellion sparked, but the Dominion's flagship moved. Forward, its shadow vast. Weapons charged for a planet-killing strike. If it fired, Kellen's people would be ash. Mara's blood ran cold. They had minutes. Dorn, Vega, Kalen. Her voice was calm, steady, final. Get to the escape pods. Dorn turned on her, tusks bared. The hell I will. Vega's hands shook, tears in her eyes. Captain. Kalen understood first. His crest fell. You mean to ram them? Asterisk. Mara's lips pressed into a thin line. We can't win, but we can stop them. Hale didn't die for me to run now. Silence. Then Dorn snarled. If you think we're leaving you, Mara cut him off, softer this time. It's not about me. It's about them, Kellen's people. Every world still waiting for someone to stand. Her eyes burned, fierce and bright. We make this count. The crew didn't leave. They stayed at their stations, loyal to the last. The Wayfarer turned, engines blazing hotter than they were ever meant to. It became a spear of fire aimed straight at the Dominion flagship. Asterisk. Veyer watched in horror as the tiny, broken ship charged. Destroy them, he screamed. Weapons fired, beams slashed. The Wayfarer burned, hull tearing apart, alarms shrieking. But still it flew. Mara's hands were steady on the controls. Hails. Belt lay beside her dot. She whispered to the stars, to the ghosts of Earth. For you. and the Wayfarer struck. The explosion lit the heavens. A sun was born in orbit, fire swallowing the Dominion flagship whole. Its death scream echoed across comms, silencing the Purge fleet in shock. One ship, one ember, enough to shatter giants. On the Erithani world, chains broke. For the first time in living memory, the Dominion retreated. The galaxy trembled. Stories spread faster than light, of a human captain who defied empires, of a ragtag crew who lit a fire of rebellion. Mara Veris. Name became legend. The Wayfarer became a symbol. And the Erithani, once bent and broken, rose to stand tall because one human showed them how. Ipila Jikulan stood before his people weeks later, scarred but alive. His voice rang across the Spire cities. The Dominion said we were slaves. They said humans were myths. But I tell you, myth became truth. Fire became flesh. And because of them, we rise. Above him, in the skies, fragments of the Wayfarer still orbited a silent memorial. The galaxy shuddered, yes. But it did not shudder in fear of the Dominion. It shuddered because humanity had returned. And this time, they would not burn alone. Asterisk.